Hey everyone, welcome to another deep dive with us.
Great to be here.
Today we're going to be talking about dating and relationships.
They?
We're going to be unpacking How to Not Die Alone by Logan Erie.
Right.
They heard of this one?
I have. Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah, it's a really interesting book because it brings together relationship science and behavioral science.
Uh-huh.
And kind of one of the main premises is that, great relationships are built, not discovered.
Right.
So what do you think about that idea?
I think there is something to that idea. I think a lot of people are looking for the one.
Right.
And this book kind of posits that it's not about finding the one. It's about really understanding all of the things that are kind of going on in the background when we're making romantic choices.
Right. So instead of just hoping to bump into our soulmate,
Right.
it's like we actually have to take some action
Exactly.
to curate our love lives a little bit.
Totally. Yeah. And it's about understanding our own behaviors and kind of the dating landscape and making informed choices about that.
Yeah. So one of the things that Gurley points out in the book is that humans are surprisingly irrational when it comes to matters of the heart.
Yes.
So why do you think we do that? Like, why do we make choices that seem to sabotage our own happiness?
Well, I think, our brains are just full of these cognitive biases, and these biases are really, they come from our evolutionary past, and a lot of them just don't really serve us well in the modern dating world.
Right.
But fortunately, behavioral science can really help us understand those patterns.
Yeah.
And why we make the choices that we do, even when we know they're bad.
Right. Yeah. It's like that age-old question,
Oh, yeah.
why do I keep falling for the wrong person?
Right, exactly.
And I think it's because we have these things
Okay.
going on in our subconscious.
Yeah, and, we might really consciously desire a kind and reliable partner, but then our subconscious might be pulling us towards someone who's emotionally volatile or unavailable.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that kind of goes hand in hand with a concept in the book that I really found fascinating, which is the paradox of choice. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So this paradox, which was explored by the psychologist Barry Schwartz,
Okay.
suggests that, even though we think that more choice leads to more happiness,
Yeah.
that's not actually true. Like, having more options can sometimes be paralyzing.
Totally.
And we're seeing that play out in a really big way, I think, in the world of online dating and dating apps, where people are just inundated with potential matches.
Yeah, totally. And I've definitely experienced that,
Yeah.
where I go on a dating app and I just see all these faces.
Uh-huh.
And it's just like, I don't even know where to start.
Right.
It's like being in a grocery store aisle with 100 different types of cereal.
Right.
And you just walk away because you're so overwhelmed.
Exactly. And that is the paradox of choice in action. It leads to indecision and self-doubt. And, even if we do make a choice, we're less likely to be happy with it.
Right. Yeah. So it's like tricking our brains almost
Totally.
that more is better.
Right.
And it's actually not.
It's not always better.
Yeah. Yeah. So Uri dives into 3 different dating tendencies that she's observed in her work.
Yes.
So can you walk us through those a little bit?
Sure. So she identifies the romanticizer,
Okay.
the maximizer,
Okay.
and the hesitator.
All right.
And each of these tendencies really represents a different approach to dating with its own set of, pluses and minuses.
Okay. So let's unpack those a little bit.
Sure.
So let's start with the romanticizer.
Okay.
What does that look like?
So the romanticizer is someone who's really idealistic about love. They cling to those fairy tale expectations
Okay.
and the idea that there's like a predestined soulmate out there.
Right.
And while this can sound, charming,
Right.
it can lead to some really unrealistic expectations and make it hard to accept the imperfections that are inherent in real relationships.
Right. Because if you're looking for that perfect person,
Right.
you're probably going to be disappointed.
Right, exactly. It's like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole.
Okay.
No matter how hard you push, it's just not going to work.
Right. Yes.
Yes. Okay, so what about the maximizer?
The maximizer.
What do they do?
So the maximizer is really driven by this pursuit of the best.
Okay.
So they really meticulously analyze every potential partner,
Mm-hmm.
weighing pros and cons endlessly.
Okay.
And this can lead to analysis paralysis,
Right.
where they just can't make a decision or commit,
Uh-huh.
even when they found someone who meets their needs.
So they're always looking for something better.
Right. They're always wondering, is there something better out there?
Right.
Even when they have something great.
Right. And is there a way to overcome that?
Oh, absolutely. So Uri gives some really great strategies. One is to set deadlines. So, instead of endlessly browsing profiles.
Okay.
You give yourself a time frame for
Right.
making a decision.
So that forces them to make a choice
Right.
instead of just being stuck in
Yeah.
this endless loop.
Totally. Okay.
Another one is to create benchmarks. So defining, the essential qualities that you really desire in a partner. So kindness, shared values, emotional stability, things like that.
Oh.
And that helps to kind of focus on what truly matters instead of getting distracted by those more superficial factors.
Right. So it's like shifting your perspective from
Right.
finding the perfect person to finding a person
Yeah.
who has these qualities that you really value.
Right.
Okay. And the last one was the hesitator.
The hesitator.
What are they all about?
So hesitators tend to, hold back from dating altogether.
Okay.
And this can be due to, fear of rejection, lack of confidence, or maybe this belief that they need to reach a certain level of readiness before they put themselves out there.
Yeah, I definitely know people like that.
Yeah.
It's like, I need to lose 10 pounds
Right.
and then I'll be ready to
Okay.
date,
Okay.
or I need to get a promotion.
Or I need to learn a new language.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
And it's like you're never going to
Right.
reach that point.
Exactly. So they're prioritizing self-improvement as a prerequisite for dating, but really what it's doing is creating a barrier to connection.
Yeah, so I think as you're listening to this,
Right.
think about which tendency do you identify with the most?
Yes.
Are you the romanticizer? Are you the maximizer? Or are you the hesitator?
Yeah. And once you understand that, that's a really powerful first step toward, really understanding your own dating patterns and making choices that are going to lead to, a more fulfilling relationship.
Totally. So now let's go back to the romanticizer for a second.
Okay.
Because I'm really interested in
Yeah.
this idea that fairy tales can be so detrimental to our love lives.
Yes.
So why is that? Why do you think that is?
Well, I think, in large part, it's because our culture is so obsessed with fairy tales and romantic comedies. We're bombarded with these images of effortless romance,
Uh-huh.
grand gestures,
Yeah.
happily ever after endings.
Yeah.
And it leads us to believe that love should be easy and conflict-free.
Right.
And that's just not the reality.
Yeah, we're raised on a steady diet of Prince Charmings
Right.
and Cinderella stories.
Totally.
And it just sets us up for disappointment.
Exactly, because real love requires work and compromise and a willingness to navigate, those inevitable ups and downs that come with being in a partnership.
Right. And also, social media
Yes.
doesn't help
Oh, it's terrible.
because we're seeing these highlight reels of people's
Yeah.
relationships.
Exactly. It's so curated.
And it just makes it seem like everybody else has it
Right.
all figured out.
Yes.
And we're the only ones struggling.
Totally.
So how do we break free
Yeah.
from these romanticized nations of love
Right.
and embrace a more realistic view of relationships?
Yeah, well, I think a really crucial step is to become more discerning about the messages that we consume.
Okay.
Pay attention to the narratives that are presented in movies and books, and especially on social media,
Uh-huh.
and ask yourself, how realistic is this?
Right.
Am I buying into something that just isn't true?
Yeah. So instead of comparing our relationships
Right.
to these like picture perfect ideals,
Right.
it's like, let's focus on building love.
Right.
That's grounded in reality.
Totally. Yeah.
Okay. So Uri tells this really interesting story about a client of hers named Stephen,
Okay.
who I think really embodies
Uh-huh.
the maximizer.
Okay.
So tell me about Stephen.
Okay, so Stephen is this brilliant, successful guy,
Uh-huh.
and he applied his maximizing tendencies to his romantic life.
Oh.
And he was dating this woman, Gabby,
Okay.
who was this wonderful woman who clearly adored him, but he just couldn't appreciate her
Oh, no.
because he was so focused on finding the perfect partner
Oh, gosh.
that he couldn't commit to this great relationship he already had.
I could already sense the heartache coming.
It's coming.
What happened?
We'll get there, but first I want to share some strategies for overcoming this tendency.
Okay.
So one thing you can do, if you are a maximizer, is to cultivate this satisficer mindset,
Okay.
which doesn't mean settling.
Right.
It means recognizing when you found someone who meets your core needs and standards
Uh-huh.
and choosing to commit to that person rather than constantly searching for something better.
Right. So it's like recognizing a good thing when you see it
Right.
and not letting fear get in the way.
Exactly.
Okay. What else can you do?
Another good strategy is to consciously reframe your thoughts. So instead of dwelling on what might be missing,
Okay.
you focus on the positive qualities
Uh-huh.
that your partner possesses
Right.
and the things that you appreciate about the relationship.
Yeah, it's like shifting your focus from what's lacking to what's abundant,
Right.
from what's wrong to what's right.
Exactly.
Okay.
And finally, it's helpful to remember that perfection is an illusion.
Right.
Every individual, every relationship comes with its own flaws and imperfections.
Huh.
And it's about embracing those imperfections,
Yeah.
both in ourselves and in our partners.
Yeah, it's like celebrating the quirks and the
It's
differences.
just to-
Okay, so now back to Stephen and Gabby.
Okay.
What happened?
So Gabby was getting increasingly frustrated with Steven's indecision. She wanted a deeper commitment,
Oh,
marriage,
yeah.
a family.
Right.
But he was just too scared to make the wrong choice and kept putting off those conversations.
Ah, I know.
So she gave him an ultimatum.
Oh.
Commit to our future together,
Okay.
or we go our separate ways.
Right.
And it really forced him to face his fears and make a choice.
And did he choose her?
He did.
Yay.
He chose Gabby.
Okay.
He recognized the depth of their connection and her invaluable qualities.
Okay.
And it was a real wake-up call for him.
Dad.
He realized he had to shift his perspective
Wow.
and embrace the beauty of their imperfect but very fulfilling partnership.
I love that.
Me too.
Okay, so speaking of understanding ourselves
Yes.
and our relationship patterns,
Huh?
I think this is a good time to talk about attachment theory. So this framework, I think, offers such profound insights into how our early experiences
Yes.
shape our approach to intimacy and connection.
So powerful.
Yeah, so how did those early experiences translate into our adult relationships?
Okay, so attachment theory was pioneered by John Bowlby
Okay.
and later expanded by Mary Ainsworth.
Okay.
And it really explores how our early caregiver relationships impact our emotional development.
Okay.
And the idea is that those early bonds really create a blueprint for how we navigate intimacy throughout our lives.
So basically how our parents treated us as children influences how we behave in romantic relationships as adults.
Totally.
Right.
Yeah, and based on Ainsworth's research, we can identify 3 primary attachment styles.
Okay, let's hear them.
Okay, so we have secure, anxious, and avoidant.
Right.
And these styles reflect different ways of relating to others in close relationships.
Okay, so let's break down each style and how it might show up in dating. So what is a securely attached person like?
So securely attached people tend to be comfortable with both intimacy and independence.
Okay.
They trust their partners, they communicate effectively, and they can navigate conflict constructively.
Okay, so they're pretty balanced.
Yes, very balanced.
Okay, what about anxiously attached people?
So anxiously attached people, they crave closeness,
Okay.
but they also struggle with insecurities and a fear of abandonment.
Okay.
They might seek constant reassurance from their partners, exhibit jealousy, or become overly dependent.
So it's like they're always worried about the relationship ending.
Yeah, exactly. And that can sometimes create a self-fulfilling prophecy where they actually push their partners away.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, what about avoidant attachment?
So avoidantly attached people prioritize independence and emotional distance.
Okay.
They may struggle with vulnerability, withdraw when things get too intense, or have difficulty expressing their needs and feelings.
So they're kind of like putting up walls? Yeah, exactly. They're protecting themselves from getting hurt.
And this actually makes me think about Uri's client, Vivian.
Yes.
Who was struggling with an anxious attachment style.
Yes, she was.
So tell me about Vivian.
Okay, so Vivian's story is a great example of how our attachment style can really impact our dating choices. She consistently found herself drawn to unavailable partners.
Right.
Which just reinforced her fears of abandonment.
Like we're subconsciously seeking out relationships that confirm our deepest insecurities.
Yeah, exactly.
And so how did she break free from this?
So Uri helped her to recognize her attachment patterns and reframe her beliefs about relationships. It was about understanding that she deserved love and security, challenging her negative self-talk, and learning to regulate her emotions more effectively.
Wow. So becoming aware of our attachment style is a really important step.
Huge.
In creating healthier relationships. And so how would somebody figure out what their attachment style is?
Well, there are a lot of online quizzes and resources available, that can give you some insight into your dominant attachment style. But it's important to remember those are just starting points, you know?
Right.
You really want to kind of delve deeper into understanding how it manifests in your relationships. And, seeking professional guidance if needed can also be really helpful.
Yeah, so if you find yourself constantly feeling anxious or insecure in relationships.
Right.
Or pushing partners away.
Yeah.
it's probably worth it to
It's worth exploring.
explore your attachment style
Yeah,
and see what you can learn about yourself.
totally.
So I think as we dive deeper into how to not die alone,
Mm-hmm.
it becomes clear that finding a compatible partner isn't just about surface level attraction.
Right.
It's about looking beyond those initial sparks
Yeah.
and considering the qualities that truly matter for a fulfilling, long-lasting relationship.
Totally. And she makes a distinction between what she calls prom date qualities and life partner qualities.
Okay, what's the difference?
So prom date qualities are things like, good looks, charisma, maybe a shared sense of adventure.
Right,
Those are the things that might make someone really exciting for a night out,
right,
but they don't necessarily translate into long-term compatibility.
right. You might have a really fun time,
Right.
but it's not going to last.
Exactly.
Okay, so what are life partner qualities?
So life partner qualities are things like kindness, emotional stability,
Okay.
shared values, a growth mindset, things that are going to create a strong foundation
Right.
for a lasting, fulfilling partnership.
So it's like you want to choose somebody who's going to be a good teammate in life,
Right.
not just a good date for the night.
Exactly.
Right. And this actually reminds me of the work of John Gottman,
Yes.
who is, like a renowned relationship expert, who found that kindness, emotional stability, and a willingness to repair conflict are all very strong predictors
Yes.
of relationship success.
Absolutely. And that aligns perfectly with Yuri's concept of, those life partner traits.
Right.
Yeah. So really emphasizing, those qualities that are often overlooked in those early stages of dating,
Right.
but that are so crucial
Uh-huh.
for a happy, durable relationship.
Right. So it's like look beyond the surface.
Right.
And see how somebody treats other people.
Yes.
How do they manage their emotions?
Totally.
How do they approach disagreements?
Those are the things that really matter.
Yeah. And that kind of goes hand in hand with another concept that Uri emphasizes, which is debunking the myth of the spark.
Yes.
We're always told that we need to feel this like instant chemistry
Right.
for it to be a good match.
Yeah, like fireworks.
Right.
Yeah.
But do you really think that's true?
I think that while that initial spark can be exhilarating, it's not always a reliable indicator of long-term compatibility.
Right.
Uri suggests that focusing solely on that spark might actually lead us to overlook some really wonderful partners.
Right.
Yeah, and she argues that chemistry can actually develop over time
Okay.
as we get to know someone on a deeper level.
Right. So maybe that person that you weren't immediately attracted to
Yeah.
could actually turn out to be somebody that you
Yeah.
would have a great relationship with.
Exactly. And in fact, she points to some research indicating that, attraction can grow
Right.
as we become more familiar with someone.
Okay.
And we discover those shared values and interests and intellectual compatibility.
Yeah, it's like those friendships that blossom into romances. You know,
totally.
you start as friends,
Mm-hmm.
get to know each other,
Yeah,
and then you realize, oh, there's something more here.
right.
Okay, so now we can't talk about modern dating
Yeah,
without talking about dating apps,
true.
right? And Jury argues that while dating apps have their benefits,
Yes.
they can also have some unintended consequences
They can.
that might actually hinder our search for lasting love.
Totally.
So what are some of the downsides of dating apps?
Well, one major drawback, I think, is that they prioritize those superficial traits. We're bombarded with photos,
Right.
often heavily filtered,
Yeah.
emphasizing physical appearance over substance.
Yeah.
And so we might be making judgments
Yeah.
based on those superficial factors rather than really getting to know someone.
Right. It's like judging a book by its cover.
Right, exactly.
Or in this case, like judging a person by their profile picture.
Right, yeah.
Totally.
Okay, what else?
Another pitfall is this illusion of infinite choice.
Yeah.
Going back to that paradox of choice,
Right.
this illusion makes it really hard to commit to one person
Yeah.
because you're constantly wondering if someone better is just a swipe away.
Right, and so you end up just like endlessly swiping and
Yeah.
searching
Yeah.
and never really investing
Right.
in getting to know somebody. Totally.
Yeah.
And that can lead to dissatisfaction,
Yeah.
and really prevent us from forming those meaningful connections.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay, what else? So another thing that Ulrich points out is that dating apps can kind of inadvertently reinforce our biases.
How so?
Well, because we tend to filter for people
Right.
who fit our preconceived notions of what we find attractive.
Right.
So it really limits our exposure to
Right.
diverse perspectives.
Mhm.
And we might be missing out on some great matches who
Right.
don't conform to our narrow criteria.
It's like we're creating an echo chamber
Right.
of our own preferences,
Exactly.
which doesn't really help us grow or expand our horizons.
Totally.
Okay, so how do we navigate the world of dating apps in a way that's actually
Well,
going to help us find lasting love?
yeah, that's the million-dollar question.
Yeah, what are some strategies?
So one crucial step is to be really mindful of our filters. Instead of prioritizing those superficial traits,
Okay.
try to focus on those qualities that truly matter.
So instead of filtering for height or hair color
Exactly.
or what their job is,
Yeah.
it's like, let's focus on their personality.
Right.
Are they kind of,
Do they share your values?
do they have a sense of humor?
Right. Are they interesting?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, what else could we do?
Another really important strategy is to limit your time on the apps.
Okay.
Don't let swiping become your primary mode of interaction.
Right.
Set a specific time limit each day,
Okay.
and then, really prioritize those face-to-face connections.
So use the app as a tool to meet people,
Exactly.
but then get offline
Right.
and actually interact with them in person.
Totally.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else?
Yeah. Make sure your profile reflects your authentic self.
Okay.
Choose photos that capture your personality. Write a bio
Uh-huh.
that showcases your interests and values.
Right. Not just how good you look in a bathing suit.
Not just the bathing suit photos.
Okay.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to initiate conversations. If you see someone you're interested in,
Uh-huh.
reach out.
Right.
The worst that can happen is they don't respond.
Exactly.
But if you never take that chance,
Right.
you'll never know.
You'll never know.
Yeah.
So be proactive
Be proactive.
and go for it.
Yeah.
All right. So Erie also gives some really great advice
Mm-hmm.
about how to craft more engaging and meaningful dates.
Yes.
And she suggests that we move beyond the typical job interview format,
Yes.
where you're sitting across from each other, just grilling each other with questions,
Right.
and instead create experiences
Yeah.
that are going to foster a more
Right.
genuine connection
Totally.
and shared fun.
Yeah.
So I've definitely been on dates that have felt like job interviews.
Oh, I'm sure we all have.
And it's like not exactly romantic.
Not really.
Yeah. So what are some
Yeah.
alternatives to that?
Well, she suggests activities that encourage interaction
Okay.
and allow you to see different facets of each other's personalities. So things like, going to a farmer's market and then cooking a meal together, taking a dance class,
Okay.
exploring a new part of your city.
I love all of those.
Yeah.
It's like doing something together
Right.
that you can talk about.
Exactly.
And that creates a memory.
Right.
Yeah. And even when you are asking questions,
Yeah.
ask open-ended questions
Yeah.
that are going to invite
Totally.
a deeper conversation.
Right.
So instead of asking, what do you do?
Yeah.
You might ask, what are you most passionate about?
Yes.
Or what's something you've always wanted to try?
Totally. Yeah.
Those kinds of questions are going to get you more
Yeah.
interesting answers.
Yeah.
And also, be a good listener.
Yes.
Pay attention to what your date is saying
Totally.
and respond in a way that shows that you're actually interested.
Right.
Don't just be waiting for your turn to talk.
Don't just wait for your turn to talk.
Yeah, and I think it goes without saying.
Right.
But put your phones away.
Please put your phones away.
Yeah, there's nothing that kills a mood faster
Yeah.
than somebody who's constantly checking their phone.
Totally.
So, okay, as we kind of move further into a relationship,
Uh-huh.
Giri emphasizes the importance of navigating milestones consciously and intentionally.
Right.
And she uses this great analogy of a tub of popcorn.
Yeah, I love this analogy.
Yeah, so tell me about that.
Okay, so, when we get to the bottom of that popcorn container,
Mm-hmm.
we kind of naturally pause and decide, do we want more?
Okay.
Do we refill it?
Right.
Or are we satisfied? But relationships lack those clear-cut stopping points.
Right.
So we often just drift from one stage to the next
Right.
without really evaluating whether it's aligned with our desires and goals.
Right, so we might just kind of go with the flow.
Exactly.
Or go along with what our partner wants.
Yeah, or what we think we should be doing.
Right.
You
And not really checking in with ourselves
Yeah.
about whether we actually want that. So how do we create those popcorn moments?
Well, Uri encourages us to establish those decision points
Okay.
intentionally.
Okay.
It's about pausing, reflecting,
Uh-huh.
communicating with our partner
Okay.
about, our needs and expectations in
Right.
each stage of the relationship.
So like defining the relationship.
Right.
Moving in together.
Yeah, talking about marriage.
Marriage.
Yeah, okay. All those big things.
Okay, so sometimes though,
Uh-huh.
despite our best efforts,
Yes.
relationships don't work out.
They don't.
And so ending a relationship is sometimes necessary for our own well-being
Yes.
and growth.
Totally.
So how does Erie approach this topic of breakups?
Well, she identifies two common tendencies.
Okay.
So she identifies these two tendencies called the ditcher and the hitcher.
Okay.
So ditchers, they tend to leave relationships prematurely,
Okay.
often at the first sign of conflict or discomfort.
Right.
They might fear commitment or struggle with vulnerability. And then on the other hand, you have hitchers.
Okay.
And they stay in relationships long past their expiration date,
Ah.
hoping that things will magically improve or fearing being alone.
So it sounds like it's all about finding that balance
Right.
of knowing when to walk away and when to stay
Exactly.
and work through the challenges.
Yeah.
So how do we know when it's time to call it quits?
Well, Uri offers a series of questions
Okay.
to help you kind of assess the health of the relationship.
Okay.
So ask yourself,
Uh-huh.
do you feel respected, supported, and valued in this relationship?
Okay.
Does your partner encourage your growth and celebrate your successes?
Uh-huh.
Do you share similar values and life goals?
Okay.
And do you feel a genuine sense of connection and intimacy?
Those are really good questions.
Yeah, and if the answer to most of those questions is no,
Yeah.
it might be time to consider moving on.
Right. So it's like taking a step back
Right.
and really looking at the relationship and seeing if it's actually serving you.
Yes.
Okay. And so if you do decide to end the relationship,
Yeah.
how do you do that in a way that's
Right.
and compassionate?
Well, Uri emphasizes the importance of ending relationships with kindness, clarity, and respect.
Okay.
So choose a time and place where you can talk openly and honestly, express your feelings clearly and directly,
Okay.
and avoid blaming or attacking your partner.
Okay. So you can acknowledge that the relationship is over
Right.
without
Yes.
making the other person feel bad.
Right. It's about acknowledging the shared history,
Right.
expressing gratitude for the good times,
Okay.
but also firmly stating your decision to move on.
Okay. So just be honest and direct,
Right.
but also kind.
And compassionate.
Yeah.
And remember to listen to your partner's perspective, too.
Right.
Allow them to express their feelings and thoughts without judgment.
Yeah. So that everybody feels heard.
Right.
Okay. And what about all the practical stuff?
Yes. So Uri also highlights the importance of creating a post-breakup plan.
Okay.
So, addressing practical matters like dividing belongings,
Okay.
establishing boundaries,
Uh-huh.
and figuring out how you're going to interact with each other
Right.
moving forward.
So you don't bump into each other
Exactly.
at the coffee shop.
Or show up at the same party.
Right.
Yeah.
And she suggests this thing called a breakup contract,
Yes, a breakup contract.
which sounds very official.
It does sound official.
So what is that?
Well, it's basically a written agreement
Okay.
that outlines how you will interact with each other
Okay.
post-breakup.
So that everybody's on the same page.
Exactly.
Okay. I love that idea.
Yeah, it's a great way to minimize confusion and hurt feelings,
Right.
during an already emotionally charged time.
Okay. So breakups are hard,
It are hard.
but they can also be opportunities for growth.
Absolutely.
So how can we kind of reframe heartbreak?
Yeah, well, Erie encourages us to reframe heartbreak
I-
as a chance to learn from our experiences,
Mm-hmm.
identify patterns in our relationships,
Right.
and ultimately make choices that lead to more fulfilling partnerships.
Okay. So instead of seeing it as a failure,
Right.
it's like,
It's a learning experience.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity for growth.
okay.
Yeah.
How to Not Die Alone
Uh-huh.
offers, I think, a wealth of insights
It does.
and strategies for approaching dating and relationships in a more conscious
Yeah,
and a fulfilling way.
absolutely.
So I'd love to hear your kind of overall thoughts on the book.
Yeah.
What resonated with you the most?
Well, I think one of the things that really stood out to me
Mhm.
was this emphasis on intentional love.
Okay.
It's not about passively waiting for love to find us.
Right.
It's about actively shaping our love lives.
Okay.
By understanding ourselves, challenging those limiting beliefs, and making conscious choices that align with our values and goals.
Right. So it's like we actually have some control
Yes.
over,
We have agency.
yeah,
Yeah.
where love lives.
Exactly.
It's not just like something that happens to us.
Right. It's not just fate or chance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I also really appreciate
Yeah.
Yuri's focus on self-awareness.
Yes.
She really encourages us to explore our attachment styles.
Identify our dating tendencies.
Okay.
Examine our beliefs about love.
Uh-huh.
And all of that self-reflection is just so crucial for
Right.
understanding our patterns.
Yeah.
And making choices that lead to, healthier, more fulfilling relationships.
It's like do the work on yourself
Yes.
And then you'll be able to
Yeah.
find the right relationship.
Exactly. It's not just about finding the right person. It's about becoming the right person.
Totally. So I think before we wrap up,
Yeah.
I'd love to just recap those 10 key takeaways
Yes.
from How to Not Die Alone.
Let's do it.
Okay, so number 1, great relationships are built, not discovered.
Yeah.
Number 2,
Mm-hmm.
we're often irrational when it comes to love, but behavioral science can help us. Number 3, the paradox of choice can make dating overwhelming, so limit your options.
Number 4, identify your dating tendency and work to overcome its challenges.
Number 5, debunk the myth of the spark.
Number 6, prioritize life partner qualities over prom date qualities.
Number 7, understand your attachment style.
Number 8, use dating apps mindfully.
Number 9, create better dates.
And number 10, make conscious decisions at every stage of the relationship.
Wow,
No,
that's a lot of good stuff.
it's a lot of good stuff.
So if you're looking for a book to help you navigate
Uh-huh.
the complexities of modern dating,
Yes.
I think How to Not Die Alone
Yeah,
is a great choice.
I agree.
Yeah. So thank you so much for joining us
Yes, thank you.
on this deep dive into How to Not Die Alone.
Absolutely.
We hope you found it
Yeah.
informative, engaging, and maybe even a little bit transformative.
We wish you all the best on your journey toward love.
Yes, and we'll leave you with this final thought. What if the key to finding lasting love isn't about finding the right person, but about becoming the right person ourselves?
Ooh.
Yeah, that's a really powerful idea.
Yeah.
You know, what if we just focus on our own growth and healing and self-discovery?
Right.
And by doing that, we naturally attract partners who are aligned with our authentic selves.
I think that's a beautiful concept, and it really shifts the focus from seeking validation externally
Right.
to cultivating that sense of wholeness within.
Right.
Yeah. And then when we approach relationships from that place of strength and self-assurance, I think we attract partners who appreciate us for who we truly are.
Right. It's like we're already complete,
Yeah.
and so we're not looking for someone to fill a void.
Right. Exactly. And we're not going to settle for relationships that diminish us or compromise our values.
Right. We're more discerning.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
We're choosing partners who enhance our lives and contribute to our well-being.
Right. It's like shifting from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset.
Yes, I
Yeah.
love that.
It's about believing that love is out there for us.
Yeah.
And that we're worthy of receiving it.
Yeah, and it's not just about romantic love.
Right.
It's about love in all its forms.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so I think before we wrap up today,
Yeah.
I just want to reiterate those 10 key takeaways
Let's do it.
from How to Not Die Alone,
Go.
just to really drive these points home.
Okay.
So number 1, great relationships are built, not discovered.
Number 2, we're often irrational when it comes to love, but understanding behavioral science can help us make more conscious choices.
Number 3, the paradox of choice can make dating overwhelming, so limit your options and focus on quality over quantity.
Number 4, identify your dominant dating tendency and work to overcome its challenges.
Number 5, challenge the myth of the spark, be open to connections that develop gradually.
Number 6, prioritize life partner qualities over those fleeting prom date qualities.
Number 7, explore your attachment style and how it impacts your relationship patterns.
Number 8, use dating apps mindfully. Number 9, create better dates that foster genuine connection and shared fun.
And number 10, make conscious decisions at every stage of the relationship, communicating your needs and expectations clearly.
Wow. So much good stuff
So much good stuff.
packed into one little book.
It's a good book.
Yeah. So if you're looking for a guide
Uh-huh.
to help you navigate the complexities of modern dating,
Yes.
we highly recommend checking out How to Not Die Alone.
It's a great read.
Okay, well, that is it for today's deep dive into How to Not Die Alone.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us.
It was a pleasure being here.
We hope you enjoyed it.
We hope you learned some valuable insights.
Yes, and remember, you are worthy of love,
Yes, you are.
and you have the power to create the relationships that you desire.
Absolutely.
Until next time, happy dating.
Happy dating, everyone.